Since we already have a full 3D turning, I also want to add some extra stuff. Right now, we don't have any platform. The platform is actually just a abstract line here to convey a floor or a ground. However, I want to add a tabletop so that we can animate the table to create a parallax effect to kind of like give it more of a 3D camera moving feeling without adding a camera. So let's start doing that. For the table, let's go create a rectangle here. So let's say if I draw a rectangle like this, and then I'll delete the stroke, change the fill color to a darker color on the coffee machine here. And maybe let's try to push it back behind the coffee machine first. I think all the colors are blending, which is not what I want. So I need to make this color lighter. Yeah, that looks better. And this one is going to be called table top. For the tabletop, I want to animate the scale property and the position property. And then for the scale, I want to unlink the X and Y scale. So let me just click on the keyframes here. And at the beginning, I want this table to be down there. And then first of all, I need to remove this ground here, the line there, just to make sure we're not confused by our platform here. We have a tabletop at the beginning, we'll have it down there, and then the scale will be just maybe bigger. Let me just move my anchor point to the top point of my tabletop, and then I can make this table larger. And then let's go forward maybe 1 second. And at this second, I'll move the position up here. And then at the same time, I want to scale the table down so that we can turn the table, almost like a turning of the table like this. So we have an animation similar to this here. And for the turning, I actually want the turning to happen maybe slower. So let's go move the second keyframe of the scale property forward to maybe 2 seconds here. Let's see if the turning is slower. Like this. We're going to create a fun effect. So let's see, this is our keyframe. Let's go ease it. Go to the graph editor. Let's adjust the position first. For the position, I forget to separate dimensions. So let me separate dimension for the position so that I don't need the X position. I can work with value graph better. For the position, if we ease it, it's coming in. So I just need an extreme easing like this. So it's easing in like this. And then for the scale, same thing. For the scale, I did unlink the X and Y scale. So I need to go to my speed graph now to do a extreme easing to the left when it's coming in. Everything that's coming in is going to be just extreme easing, everything pushing to the left like this. And let's see if that makes sense. I feel like the position changes is not as natural as what I like. So I need to move this keyframe further down to make sure we have a gentle easing here. And then at the beginning it's moving too fast. So I think, what if I have this Y position just complete outside? Let's see if that makes sense. Maybe that looks better now. So we have the table coming up and turning. And you can see it better after I add an edge of the table. So let me just go add an edge for the table. Let me draw another shape here and then change this color to a darker brown color here. Now we have an edge on the table, so I can just still make it a bit smaller. Just want to make the table thinner, and then this is going to be the table edge. Let me just push this layer all the way down here. All the way down. Just parent the table edge to the tabletop here. Whenever they're connected, just parent it so that it's moving with the tabletop. And now let's see the animation here. You can see the table is actually just turning, almost like a camera turn, right? That looks pretty cool. Before we move on, I also need some leg for the table because right now there's no support on the table. So let's draw a couple layers for the leg. Let me just go to my pen tool and then let's draw a shape like this. This is gonna be, let's say, this color here. And then let me duplicate this layer. I'll just change the position like this. And then I'm gonna go to access my vertex points. Make sure this is gonna be the side of this table leg here. So I'll convey a 3D feeling so that we have a edge. And then for the edge here, I just need to make a darker brown color to separate the leg over there. So that's going to be my leg 1. And then let's duplicate the 2 layers. Let's go to scale property and then change everything to negative on the X scale. That's cool. And then I have this leg that's flipped horizontally. However, I need to adjust the position of this edge here. That's good. Now I have the leg. Let's pre-compose this one and call this one the table leg. Now I just need to put this table leg underneath my tabletop. That's cool. That's going to be the leg that we have. And then let me just parent this leg to the tabletop as well. So when it's moving, it's actually just lifting up the leg. That's looking super cool. We have the tabletop, the leg, and then almost like a camera move to have everything moving in a 3D space gently. That's pretty cool. And now I just want to add a texture on my table. So let's go to my project. I already have a wooden texture downloaded. So it looks something like this. If I drag it inside the composition and make it bigger, this is what it looks like. Super cool. And then let me unlink the scale. I need to shrink it down in the Y scale so that we can convey a perspective on this thing here. Something like this. It can give us a perspective. And after we have the size we need, we just parent it to the tabletop, first of all. And then we need to use the tabletop as an alpha matte as well. And then we also need to change the blending mode maybe to a multiply. And once we change it to multiply, we still need to turn on the tabletop because it's automatically turning off our layers here. So I'm going to turn it on, and then let's change the opacity to 35. So we have a very subtle texture going on my table. Let's see if that makes sense here. That looks pretty cool. Let's see. We have a table that's turning. Before we move on, I just want to fix this tabletop here because you see when the coffee machine come in, it's actually floating in the air instead of sitting on the table. So I need to sync these 2 objects better when they come in. Let's see how I can adjust the table first. Let me go to my tabletop here. I hit U on the keyboard to show the keyframes. So I might need this Y position to come up faster. If I drag this keyframe and push it backward, and at the beginning, I probably need to have this table come up earlier. So I need to just push this whole layer back so that we're cutting the fronts here to make sure my table is already in the scene before the coffee machine come up. And then I'll drag this keyframe back. Let's see if that works. Yeah, I think that looks better. Next thing, I want to add a camera zooming out motion without using a camera. So what I need to do is go to layer and then create new, go to null object. I'll use the null object to shrinking the size of everything in my composition to mimic a camera pulling away from the scene. Now I just need to parent everything that's not having a parent currently on the layer to my null object. So I'm trying to parent this one that doesn't have a parent yet. And then all these layers that doesn't have a parent, I'll select them by holding down Command. And the only thing I'm not selecting is the background. So I'm selecting all these, parent it to the null object. So now I can use the null object to control the scale of everything in my scene here, like this. That's cool. And then let's do an animation over here at the beginning. Let's go with 110%, add a keyframe at the beginning, and then go forward maybe 2 seconds, change it to 85%. And then for the rest of the time, it'll just slowly zooming out. So let's change it to around maybe 75% or 80%. at the 9-second mark. So this is going to be a camera zooming out like this. Let's go easy ease the keyframe, F9, go to the graph editor, fit the graph to view. I want to go to my value graph here. So this is going to be my graph. As we are zooming out, I would change this curve like this so that we are easing into position over here. And I also want to click on the auto Bezier, turn it to auto Bezier, make it flat at first and then give it an angle so that the camera move is not stopping, it's continuous. And then at the end, I'll drag this handle out further so that we get an easing, a very extreme easing at the end so that my camera is slowly just zooming out. Something like that. Let's see if that works. Yeah, I like the zooming. I think it's working pretty well now. So that's the animation we have. I think that completes the animation setup for the scene here. And the next thing we're going to do is just to go ahead and stylize the scene to make it more realistic with light and shadows and cast shadows.